Hello everyone, and welcome back. My name is Rook, and this is a series chronicling my adventures in Norath, playing as a high elf enchanter named Net. In the last episode, we spent some time in Lesser Feydark hunting the Nybright sisters in order to gain a small amount of plat in order to finance some more gear as we're starting out. In this episode, we travel back to Antonica to hunt crag spiders in eastern Karana, with the intent to harvest a bunch of spider silk as we get through these next few levels. This is the last catch-up episode, so after this we're caught up to where I am in actuality on this character, and I can start recording these as I actually level up and do new things. Sorry for the short break in these videos. Summer semester ended up being busier for me than anticipated. This channel is doing much better than I had hoped, and I look forward to continuing to make videos for you guys. I also wanted to mention that I am probably one of the less experienced players in this game, and if someone corrects me in the comments about something I say, and you are coming to these videos wanting information from them, you should generally defer to whatever the comments say. So from where we were in the last episode, we're making a similar journey to the one we made in our first episode, except this time we're starting from Lesser Feydark rather than Greater and traveling marginally further into Antonica. I'm a miser, so I take the boat a lot of the time and just put on a movie or a show or something while I wait, choosing to run rather than paying for a druid to teleport me. You do have to keep in mind what time you're traveling through Kithakor Forest though. We don't go through Kithakor at night. Once you're through Kithakor, you're in High Pass Hold, right next to High Keep. Passing through this zone is fine if you have invisibility like Net does, but if you don't, you have to just get Spirit of Wolf, run like hell, and hope that you don't make a wrong turn and get cornered. My trick is to keep on the western half of the zone and run along the pair of bridges so that you only need to keep a couple of landmarks in mind, but I've gotten lost here probably 30% of the time that I am in this zone. After you're through High Pass Hold, you're basically in the clear, and you just need to make your way down this gigantic ramp that the wiki map does not prepare you for. At the base of this ramp lies our quarry, Crag spiders. These boys drop between 1 and a whopping 10 spider silk, and are fantastic for getting a bunch of silk relatively quickly. They have poison, so they're a bit clumsy to charm solo as an enchanter, but even just a handful of levels in this area hunting these spiders will give more than enough spider silk to level your tailoring to nearly 100 for very little monetary investment. Trade skilling in classic EQ is not very similar to trade skilling in a lot of other MMO games I've played in the past, and to be honest, I'm not super knowledgeable about it, so take this entire segment with a grain of salt. Trade skills in this game are super useful, and objects and equipment created through trade skilling are frequently used as equipment or in quests. However, the trade skills that produce useful goods are generally prohibitively expensive to level up for low-level players. It takes around 500 platinum pieces of supplies to level blacksmithing to the point where you can begin to make and sell suits of banded armor, which market for around 100 platinum pieces. There are different trade skills, like jewelry crafting or alchemy, that are only able to be performed by specific classes. There are also trade skills like fishing, brewing, or baking, which serve very few specific purposes or are otherwise completely useless. With that being said, handmade backpacks are an item I mentioned in my first episode as being something that can be made from common newbie drops, and buying those pelts from newbies nets you a profit of 20 plat every time you're able to sell a handmade backpack. This doesn't make a really appreciable amount of money, and it doesn't do so quickly, but I appreciate being able to essentially AFK and make some spare plat in the tunnel as I'm editing videos or doing other things. The goal here is to get enough spider silk so that I'm able to level my tailoring to 90 or so and make handmade backpacks and even some monk and caster armor. One of the things that I didn't get to talk about in my last video that's integral to my experience playing Net is how easy leveling is as an enchanter compared to my experience playing a wizard or a ranger. Playing an enchanter after playing any of the other classes I've tried so far has been like discovering that you didn't know how to level up in Elden Ring until halfway through the game, or that you didn't realize that you could pick perks in Skyrim until after you beat the campaign. Suddenly, EQ plays like an actual game. The downtime is present, but a negligible portion of the overall game time, as opposed to being half of the time I'm spending playing the game. The levels and encounters are all still dangerous, but they've become surmountable rather than being impossible walls of statistical difficulty. I understand that this game isn't intended to be played solo. For example, if you were playing a tabletop D&D game with a single character, you'd run into all sorts of similar situations, where you'd be playing a paladin, but need a rogue's ability to unlock a door or a wizard's ability to control a chaotic fight. By being uncompromising in this regard, EQ Classic fosters a more cooperative and interactive community than even modern MMO games, with more active concurrent players and ostensibly better systems to meet up and play with people. But I have to imagine that there was a more graceful solution than to hamstring certain classes by restricting access to key mechanics which control fights like CC or healing and damage abilities. Imagine if melee and spell classes scaled more like D&D. Despite the overwhelming power of mages when they reach high level, most mage classes are particularly weak early on, and martial classes frequently both out-damage and provide more combat utility than them before a certain level threshold. The ability to battle in melee becomes less important as the powers of both allied mages and enemy monsters make doing so redundant. When a mage can prevent a monster from ever entering a rage where it can harm anyone and blast it apart with spells, there's less need for melee fighters with high damage or defense. However, through working together with mages and with spell effects like haste, martial class characters are still able to keep up even if they're unable to cast encounter dictating spells. Just bumping up the damage that the hybrid or pure melee classes do significantly to have them be more capable early on and in line with the power scaling of comparable old school RPGs would be awesome. This would get a bit crazy if you consider players will give their newer characters high-level gear, but you could double or even triple the damage output of a low-level melee class armed with gear that they obtained on their own before you reach the amount of damage and control that a naked mage of the same level is able to output through their spells. There's so much content to this game that I'm not sure that trivializing the early levels for players who have enough resources to outfit a brand new character with endgame gear would necessarily be a bad thing. As an Enchanter at level 12, I unlock the ability to charm monsters, and as a result, the strategy of charm soloing. It's a bit unintuitive to describe, but I'll do my best. In Everquest Classic, classes with pets split the experience that they get from monster kills if their pet deals more than 50% of that monster's total HP. Charming monsters is awesome because the charmed monsters are typically very powerful even compared to pets other classes can summon at similar levels. An Enchanter can charm a creature and buff it up, then run around tearing up a zone for a bit until the charm breaks, sharing the EXP with their pet. However, an Enchanter can also charm a monster and have it fight a monster that's similarly dangerous. Either naturally or with some help, the creatures will get to low HP at the same time, and at this point the Enchanter is able to break his charm effect in a number of ways and kill both of the monsters to get the full EXP value from both kills. If this is done correctly, and with a bit of luck, this can equate to 2 full EXP kills on mobs right around the Enchanter's level with only a handful of spells cast and the majority of the time spent meditating. You have to watch out for your charm breaking as you have a high chance of dying if you're unable to recharm or CC the multiple incoming mobs that you may have even buffed yourself. However, I found myself having so much extra mana that it wasn't any issue just to keep every active combatant rooted and give myself a bunch of space to stay safe. If you get really unlucky and your charm and root effects wear off at the same time, or if you get multiple spell resists in a row as you're trying to CC an incoming creature, you can die even playing correctly, but otherwise I found the EXP to be unbelievable using this strategy. Eastern Karana is an interesting zone that's a lot busier than you would assume. This is another popular camp, so it was a bit of a battle sometimes to find monsters to hunt here, but the other creatures further out from the mountains are fine EXP even if they don't drop spider silk. Fighting the spiders is super easy, as the Crag spiders are generally spaced pretty far from each other, and there's plenty of space to fight in the open at the base of the ramp. Wandering monsters are frequent, but easy to see coming, and if you overpull, Sir Morgan will sometimes be nearby to help. The spiders have a weak poison, so if you've got a poison resist spell, or one that can remove poison, be sure to memorize it. The wildlife here are all around level 18. However, the wolves around the zone run really fast, and gorge hounds can randomly see through invisibility, so you have to be somewhat careful. There are hill giants to watch out for that spawn and wander intermittently near the pass, but there was a named giant, Tarble Earthstrider, who seemed much more amiable than his peers. In the northwestern part of the zone, there are some named Cyclops that are just minding their own business, and similarly named gnolls to the south of the mountain pass who are doing the same. The knight, Sir Morgan, patrols the zone from the bridge to the west to an area near the base of the mountain pass and kills wildlife he encounters along the path. His squire, Wimbley, waits for him at the bridge to North Karana. To the north, you have the zone line to the Gorge of King Zorb, and a small camp with some shops. I never went to the southern half of this zone even a single time leveling 2 characters here in this level range, as there's not much down here. However, there are several farms, a haunted obelisk, and a barbarian fishing village a long way from Hallis that the majority of people in this game have probably never actually seen or consciously acknowledged the existence of. Most of the people you find in East Karana are just passing through, with a notable population of druids leveling who are charming beasts here, and random adventurers like Net harvesting silk. If you catch a druid leveling here, offer them Breeze in exchange for Spirit of Wolf, and you both walk away significantly happier for it. Just as a disclaimer, this quest is kind of a mess, so not only have I taken some liberties with the writing at points, I have made up certain aspects of the story. I tried to stay as close to the game as possible, but if I used everything from the game, then we would have to talk about the 3 separate Princess Elenas and go into 2 sub-quests, which are super boring. However, I have tried my best to piece together all the dialogue I could find, some of which came from 20-year-old forum posts, and some of which I had to explore and find for myself in the game, and I do think the end result is an accurate depiction of the quest. Net came here to collect spider silk, and while he was resting in between fights at the base of the winding mountain pass, he was approached by a bard who offered him a tale in exchange for some enchantments, as he was also hunting in the area. Ned accepted, and the bard began to tell a story of a heroic paladin from Felwith who had returned from a quest given to him by Tinkle to hunt. God, come on, man, are you fucking kidding me? Joju Joj Go 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 Goonga. A fearsome and gigantic kobold who made its home in the fetid Inathul swamp to the south of the desert of Ro. Returning to Felwith with the hide of this foul creature, Tinkle was impressed and said, "So, you have proven yourself to be a great slayer of beasts. Now, it is time to prove yourself to be an asset to the crown. Felwith weeps. Our beautiful flower, Princess Elena Thex, has been reported missing. You are to meet with a man named Tolon Nurbite, who I have dispatched to search for her. He will be at the local inn. Go to him and repeat the phrase, 'The glory of the mother shines bright.' I can say no more." This paladin then proceeded to the Traveler's Home Inn and greeted the innkeeper, a man known as Freegraze. He asks about Tolon Nurbite, and Freegraze responds, "So, you are asking about Mr. Tolon Nurbite, eh? He is on the 2nd floor, last door on the right. You two had best not be up to any mischief. The pair of you look a little shifty for the kingdom of Felwith." The paladin then goes up the stairs into a shady corner of the inn. He glances around, making certain he was not followed before quietly slipping into the room. Not recognizing his contact, Tolon starts. "Didn't your mother teach you not to walk into others' rooms without knocking? You didn't even have the courtesy to close the door behind you." The paladin quickly interrupts Tolon's diatribe with the passphrase given to him by Tinkle. Tolon recognizes the phrase indicating his contact and grins, stepping back and looking at the paladin sent by Tinkle from head to foot. "So, you're the slayer of Joju Joj Gogogogunga. Funny. I thought you would be taller, though I guess you will have to do. I am Tolon Nurbite of the Silent Watch. We do all the dirty work of King Taeris Thex. No one knows of us. So I hope you accept this mission, or I will have to kill you. Do you accept this mission, or do you wish to leave?" The paladin accepts the mission, and Tolon continues. "So, I see you were wise. We Silent Watch are few, and all, save myself, are off on missions. We need the talents of a newcomer. We need you. You are to journey to the Antonican city called Highhold. Seek out a high elf called Tyron. Say to him, 'All is not bright above the clouds.'" And with this, the noble paladin set out for Antonica on a secret mission of utmost importance. He crossed the Butcher Block Mountains in the dead of night and left under alias on a publicly chartered boat to Freeport. He could not teleport, as knowledge of Princess Elena's capture was of critical strategic importance and presented an incredible opportunity for those who wished Felwith ill. The paladin kept to himself in the journey, giving as few clues to his origin as possible. Disembarking in Freeport, he bought supplies and left the city as the sun set, journeying across the common lands towards Highkeep. The night proceeded without fear into Kithakor in the dead of night, as the undead within held no danger for a paladin of his caliber. Arriving at Highkeep, he entered inconspicuously, ostensibly as a mercenary or bodyguard in service to one of the esteemed guests of Carson McCabe. He made his way to the bar, where he slipped the bartender a heavy coin pouch and asked about Tyron Blianix. Now that you mention it, I do remember someone by that name. A high elf, right? I saw him poking around all over High Keep, but all of a sudden I stopped seeing him. If I remember correctly, the last time I saw him, he mentioned something about Carson McCabe himself inviting him to the royal suite. Might have made him upset. If I have a word of advice to offer you, friend, well, you're in High Keep. Don't make Carson McCabe upset. The knight made his way to the royal suite and found it locked. Looking around to ensure his solitude, he kicked the door open. Inside, he found the corpse of Tyron Blianix, bound to some sort of torture device. As the knight looked on, the spirit of Tyron coalesced into a ghost before him. So enraged at his failure, he could not let his connection to this plane go. It looked at him in pure agony.
Beware, beware, the Tedor walk the halls of High Keep.
The knight recognized the spirit to be his comrade in arms and greeted him with the passphrase given to him by Tolan Nurbite.
Princess Elena has been taken from this place. Seek the High Pass Hussy. Ask of her. Only she knows where. Find the princess. Give her this. Then return to me with the prize from the princess. Become a hero.
And with that, the ghost handed the knight his bracer. The knight had no idea who Tyron could be referring to and returned to the bar on the first floor. He asked the bartender if he knew of a high-pass hussy, who replied, "Her name is Mistress Anna." Mistress. Aptly named, that one. She is the high-pass hussy. That is what everyone calls her behind her back, that is. Just as high-pass, she is beautiful and frequently traveled. I've heard rumors that Carson has been seeing her, but how can that be true? He has Lady McCabe. What else does he need? The knight then made his way to Mistress Anna and asked her about Princess Elena. Anna was taken aback by the question and responds, "What do you know of the princess? Are you working for Lady McCabe, or were you sent by someone else?" The knight explained that he was sent by Tyron. "I see. The princess was being held by Lady McCabe. The one who would know of her whereabouts is a dark elf named Karana, but I doubt she will tell you. You will have to beat it out of her, and then find a shackle key for little Miss Princess. I regularly meet with Marlin, the locksmith, at night in room 6 at Roosters and High Pass. Do me a favor and kill the disgusting creep. You will find the shackle key you need on him. Now, get out of here." The knight located Karana in a hidden chamber behind one of the portraits on the 3rd floor. She was a skilled necromancer, more dangerous than she had appeared, but was no match for the knight from Felwith. On her corpse, he found a strange vial, as well as a note from Neriak which read, "Karana, be sure you combine 3 parts fairy dust with 1 part sand of roe. Then when we command, you shall venture to Lake Rathtyr. There, you shall turn a royal fish into a princess." The knight then went to meet with the locksmith Marlin, showing up when he was expecting Anna.
What are you doing in here? I requested no room service. Now leave quickly, before Mistress Anna comes.
The knight asked Marlin if he knew of Anna.
Mistress Anna is my lover. She will wed me as soon as she is through mourning the loss of her ex-lover.
Until then, I shall continue to keep her well. She assures me that she will be over it soon. I'm sure she loves me. She meets with me often.
At 9 and 6, she always says.
The knight asked what he knew about Princess Elena.
What was that about Princess Elena? You know her? I feel sorry for her.
I wish I had the courage to help her. I made the key for her special shackles. Maybe you can rescue her. Tell you what, I have always wanted to venture to Kinos to buy a silk evening tunic for Mistress Anna. You go and get me it, and I shall give you the key to Princess Elena's shackles. The knight refused to entertain his ridiculous request, and remembering what Anna had requested him to do, unsheathed his blade. The locksmith immediately put his hands in the air and began trying to bargain. "Hey, there's no need for that. I could just as easily give you the key. Look, I've got it on me right now. I could just give it to you and you can walk away." The knight demanded that in exchange for his life, he not only turn over the key, but leave Highkeep and never bother Mistress Anna again. Marlin reluctantly acquiesced and turned over the key, then began packing his things. At this point, the knight left Highkeep and gathered the components for the strange vial. He made his way to Lake Rathtyr, where he stood on the shore. A small fish swam to him, looking at him with pleading eyes which seemed to understand his thoughts. The knight reached down and fed the fish the strange mixture from the vial. The fish gobbled up the strange mixture, then transformed into a beautiful princess. Princess Elena shouts, "I am free! I am rescued from the hands of the Terdal! I am grateful. Show me your proof of allegiance, along with a key to remove these dark shackles, and I shall reward thee." The knight unshackles Princess Elena and hands her Tyrion's bracer as proof of having been sent by the Silent Watch. Princess Elena says, "You have saved me. You are my hero. Take my amulet to Tyrion in High Keep. Help put his soul at ease, and he shall reward you. Now, I must go. I am sorry I cannot transport you as well, but my powers are weak from much swimming. Farewell, brave soul." The knight returned to High Keep in disguise and made his way back to the royal suite where Tyrion's ghost still clung to this realm. Calling out in ghostly agony as he recognizes the knight, he says,
Royal amulet, then I will be at peace.
The knight hands Tyrion's ghost the royal amulet, and he hands the knight his shield, then says,
Peace, I can rest now. You now hold my Silent Watch shield. Protect Felrith.
Net snapped out of focus, realizing that he had been listening to the bard talk for much longer than he had anticipated. He began to weave the enchantments which had brought the bard to him in the first place as he continued. And with that, Tyrion's ghost finally moved on, and the mysterious knight disappeared from record. It said that King Thex gave him a large enough reward to never have to work another day in his life. He's supposed to have retired to some stuffy Kawada doll estate in the Fadarks. However, I don't think that's true. I think he's still out there working with the Silent Watch on even more dangerous missions. I don't buy the idea that a hero like that would be content with retiring. Net laughed and thought for a moment. He didn't think so either. He wondered what he would do with enough money to never have to work again. As the bard said his thanks and made his way from the camp, Net began packing his own things. As he was counting out the silk he had gathered, he smiled. He wouldn't have to wonder what he would do with that much money for much longer. The spider silk is a nice stepping stone, and the funds from their sale will pay for Net's spells and reagents for a time yet. But the real value he gained from the spiders was practice controlling incredibly dangerous creatures and pitting them against each other. Returning to High Keep himself, he bought a room for the first time in several days, as he had been sleeping in the Karanas while he was hunting spiders. After washing himself, he lay a large map of Norath across the table with a number of locations marked out and began to plan the next leg of his adventure.